we're just talking about how there's a lot of interest in this among people who can't make it, but definitely support it, and that's totally fine. Blandin's cool with that. And we just need to put together our groups of the leadership committee and kind of fill in the various. That's our last meeting I was just listening to. Yeah, fill in the various dots in the application to flesh that out, and then the leadership team can kind of form an application and send that around for everyone to review time to time. We have, at the last meeting, we made, I'm calling tentative decisions, that KEDA would be the fiscal agent and Voyage Forward would be the lead organization, and that Ted and I would be the co-chairs of the leadership team. And I haven't heard any feedback from anybody contrary to those preferences, so I don't think you have any.
Sounds like a good plan. Who was on the Voyage committee, Voyage Forward committee, that was interacting with this area?
With the Blandin Broadband part?
Or concerned about technology, we had.
Yeah, so that was one of the reasons that Voyage Forward made a lot of sense. Technology concerns came up as one of the top priorities in the Voyage Forward work, and it was one of the destiny drivers that was identified as the only destiny driver that did not get a champion.
Oh, really?
At that time, and we were thinking it made a lot of sense to kind of make that an active destiny driver, tweak it to be this, because it was, the destiny driver was infrastructure, so it included things like roads and all that, but it included a lot of tech stuff, so this would be more or less a new destiny driver focused just on the internet access and usage and all that, right? And it ties into all the other destiny drivers pretty well.
I think it's wise to be using the word Voyage Forward in our applications because we've done all that background work.
Yeah, and that background work is part of what's going to sell this to Blandin.
Right.
They'll be pretty happy with that, I think.
And Bill was excited about, I think he made the suggestion that Voyage Forward would be a good.
You might have,
I think he was impressed with that, with what he saw in that too.
So I guess we'll kind of call that a decision, and I wanted to give at least people a week or two to comment on those different decisions that I mentioned. So we'll go with KEDA as the fiscal agent. They still haven't had a chance to vote on that, right? But you're very confident.
Yeah, I think it's got all the indications. We've acted in that role in previous initiatives, and it's got the countywide component, or larger than the city limits, and it's a defined period of time with a good partner. It's somebody that we know and have worked with, so or has worked in the region, and worked locally here. So
right.
Certainly all those indicators would seem to be a good fit for KEDA. And I think Bill was clear on this too, although I don't think we ever give up on the fact that we know that there are underserved or unserved areas within the county, and that's going to be a long-term part of this discussion. But for the Blandin initiative, really, the key is about utilization of what we have and how to better. So just keep that in front of people, because I don't want to get off on the wrong where people, and I know there's a couple people up in the west part of the county that say, oh good, you're going to run fiber to my house. That's not the case with this, and that's another reason I reached out to Emily in the newspaper, and we're going to have a chance to chat with her to kind of clarify some of that. But it's also been at time to kind of where are we at in terms of broadband currently, because there have been a lot of progress made throughout the county.
Right.
And so don't want to lose sight of that.
Yeah.
There are still some underserved, but for this initiative especially, it's going to be how do we have what's here and how do we better utilize it, economic development, commerce, whatever.
Right.
Do we have representation from Midco and the providers?
We don't. We are open to it, but I think absolutely they would be involved in whatever we do.
I think we need their input in the planning stage.
Yeah.
Because they're going to know the inventory of what's already there.
Yeah.
I think that the Bemidji company, Paul Onion, they have a presence already.
Yeah, I had a conversation with them yesterday.
I would love to see them come into the city. But,
They are.
They are?
They are and they won't.
They are.
Yes.
They are, they're
They
not
are,
going to
they
serve
won't.
the residential customer?
They do through Midco.
Midco uses the fiber infrastructure that Paul Blandin put in.
A little competition would be good.
Yeah, but, go ahead. So the economics of it make it so it's not in Paul Blandin's interest to come. If we only had Frontier, then there are, or less than that, there are sources of funding to bring in a high-speed internet service provider to the community as a general, a generally available service provider. Because we already have Midco and they already have pretty high speeds in our area and have plans to improve, there is no extra funding. So then Paul Blandin coming in would depend entirely on the commercial benefits, whether it makes sense for them to come in and compete in this market. And because of the size of the market, they have no plans to do that. But they do have that fiber infrastructure, and any individual business or homeowner or whatever can pay $300 to $400 a month to have a fiber cable run right to their building and connect to that.
A month?
A month. That they will do, but competing as a general service provider, they won't do. Yeah.
I think it would be helpful to invite them at some point, though, to explain how the infrastructure works, how Paul Blandin actually is serving some clients in town, some high-end commercial customers, but basically
Boise, are they with Boise?
Boise and schools,
colleges,
two-star.
Okay.
They've kind of picked some larger commercial, but they don't want to compete at that. Midco is basically riding on their infrastructure, much as Frontier is riding on the Northeast Service Cooperative. So, yeah, they're
Who's running on Northeast Service Cooperative?
Frontier on part of their network. It's really convoluted, and they won't share the mapping. I was able to because it's in their best interest, because they know that there's customers eventually, like the data center. They want to be a part of that because it's a big user. But to get information from them is a little tricky and competitive.
Right.
But it's really, it would be helpful, I think, for everybody to kind of understand how they each work together or compete or share.
And what their plans are.
Yeah.
AT&T had some plans, I thought, for cable or
It's a
internet.
tower, wasn't it?
The tower, is that it? That was a total, just a tower.
They're working on a tower at Green Lake Hospitals.
Okay, and then the other one was, we don't want to overlook the TV towers throughout the county. What's that?
Oh,
What? Minneato. Because those towers are already sitting there. And there's been, I think there's, what, 5 to 7 of them throughout the...
Yeah, somewhere like
Yeah.
that.
So, I mean, I think we need to know about the infrastructure in order to make a project proposal.
right.
Yes,
And I
so-
think Minneato needs to be a part of that.
At this meeting, we have a pretty narrow agenda that we want to focus on certain things. In order
Shut me down.
to not keep focused. I know we can talk for 5 hours easily on the topic.
No, I'm sorry, but I just want to make sure.
This is my real question, Ken, what is the cable commission stand on this? Or is it-
The cable, the charter,
Yeah.
the city cable commission is here today because we have a vested interest in this as well.
Okay.
So you're representing
And
the-
I'm representing the city in that capacity and as a board member of KCCTV.
Okay.
It was.
Yeah, we'll fall back as we
Back.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Darcy, our latest wonderful
Okay.
person.
So-
I just want to know where that commission stand in this project or involved in the project.
Right. So the main goals of this meeting is to get all the information together for good progress towards that we need for the application that's due at the end of the month. And the key areas for that are identifying the steering committee, which we have already, Ted and myself, Harley Joba and Soren Olison. Paul, you said yes, and Ted is talking with Amy Mortensen. And the steering committee is like the core group that commits to meet, basically every time there's a meeting. There's some travel involved to go down to meet with Blandin people and with the other 3 other Blandin broadband communities and all that. So it's a relatively intense commitment. And part of what Blandin definitely looks for is that steering committee representing the breadth of the community pretty well. Amy with Kutaska has some good connections there. Soren, helps represent the outlying communities pretty well. We each have our areas. Paul's very tied into, the business and development and the countywide perspective. So, there isn't a strict number. I'm thinking in terms of, and I think Bill mentioned this, like 6 to a dozen people. The key thing is that they'd be very motivated and ideally represent different things. So, and the steering committee is not fixed either. People can be added to that over time.
Well, I would like to make sure that KCCTV has a member of that, whether it be Darcy or me, whoever, but I think it's important because we interact with the city cable commission as well.
Okay.
And Midco has a franchise where most of the people in the area are through the city.
Right.
So we need to be on that steering committee and be a part of that, I think.
Okay.
I probably would like to be in that committee.
You would like to be on that too?
Yes.
Great.
Probably at KCCTV and
I would share the position.
Do you guys want to decide, let me know later or decide right now?
Well,
It can change too over time.
Darcy is a
anyway.
teacher, plus she has children, so I'm willing to take team her on that.
Oh, so you guys can sort of be
Yeah.
co-members, right?
Yeah.
We'll put it down to
That might work.
KCCTV.
I mean, you would take the lead.
I've got a whole bunch of programs coming up with the school here for KCCTV, so I'll be busy on that.
And that already is, that is 8 people right there, so that kind of, we're in now the sweet spot of how many people to have. And we can move ahead with that. Anyone else shows a significant interest, feel free to talk it up to them as well. So I guess we'll move on from the steering committee for now. And each person on the steering committee will need to submit a short biography, like a paragraph, maybe 2, touching on primarily how they represent the area, the community, and what parts they touch on. Then organizations that may provide letters of support and participation. I haven't started a list of that yet, but the city voted yesterday or the day before on, and we haven't heard yet whether they voted in favor or
We
against,
did, of
but
course.
yeah.
And the letter.
Yeah, wasn't too worried
There's a
about
lot
it.
of arm twisting. But
There were our twisting them.
So as you have those letters prepared, please send them along to us. I was going to talk to Woodland Park Apartments. I'm going to definitely mention them in the application because their board decided to provide internet at no cost to everyone in their building. And as a HUD building, that definitely touches on the lower income part of the population. They just didn't want everyone in there having to pay for a high-speed connection
Who
themselves.
did this?
Woodland Park Apartments.
Oh,
Yeah, we did the work, our shop, but
Oh.
they approached us and said, we'd like to do this.
okay.
And we took it from there, so.
Yeah, so I think everybody there's got the cord, or they still have cable through Woodland Park too, but everybody have their internet connection now, so that they're all receiving it for free. It's got $70 a person that they save, so.
Wow.
Yep.
Did they raise the rent?
They raised actually the rent $5, but it wasn't for the internet, it was for the cable. The
Okay.
cable price went up, so the internet didn't end up costing them anything extra.
That's right.
Is the internet
So-
through Midco out there?
It is, yeah. It's in the city, they have a really good connection.
I would think, two of the usual suspects, aside from the cities and the county itself, the chamber, CVB,
CVB is important
yeah.
because the resorts,
Yep.
school district?
Yeah, oh, that would,
Yeah.
absolutely, school districts,
College.
School districts on board.
community college.
Hospital?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, do they use that covered internet out
Oh,
there
they-
for operations and that kind of thing? That's where we're in.
They have one of the biggest networks in town because it has to be so much more secure and everything, so they've invested a lot in that. Their server room looks like spaghetti, but.
Yeah.
The Rating Property Owners Association hasn't done it, hasn't officially voted on it yet, but they agreed to
I would think,
have a letter of
yes.
support.
What about Rainier?
The city of Rainier?
All the cities.
All the cities are.
Paul, are you a good person to reach out and coordinate with the cities on?
Sure,
getting this
yeah,
happening?
yeah.
So one of the things, we're getting a list of who we want letters of support from, but also we want people here to take ownership of, making it actually happen.
The county's gonna do it, a letter of support.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, how many letters do you want?
The more we get, the more,
There's an 8-page application, but that does not include letters of support. We can send them, 50 letters of support or more.
seems like that's one of the biggest things, why they choose is based on letters of support and diversity.
Okay, well, when we write these letters, one of the things is that the people who are writing have to have a concept of what this is, what we're
Right.
doing,
Yes.
so.
So a couple paragraph description of what this Blandin program is all about can be provided.
In the
to them.
request, okay,
Yeah.
because our projects are undefined at this point.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it will be undefined no matter what until we actually get accepted, so that's kind of just how the program works.
Okay, I hate to backtrack on this, and I wasn't at the first meeting because of a conflict, but what is, we have to apply to be in the pool, and then we do an application for projects? Is that how it works?
Kind of, so there's 4 communities that are gonna be accepted. And Bill Coleman, that was here, guesstimated the 10 to 12 people that will all, or 10 to 12 communities that will be applying. And,
So a 1/3 chance.
well, the other communities aren't us, right? So,
Well, we're gonna be this one.
I think we have a really strong.
yeah, Bill was really pulling for it, and the fact that we're so far in remote,
Yes.
everything helped us out, we're all set up as long as we, get the application filled out properly and get a lot of support. I think we have a significantly better than a third chance from the way, he didn't come out and say that, but was really hinting at it.
Yeah, and Cooch has sent a lot of folks to the Blended Leadership Program, so they're very familiar with this, and I think with Bill Wright, again, we've got a reminder that, just one, I'm gonna continue on, I have a question I'll bring up later.
So that's what it is. We get, once we get accepted, then they kind of facilitate these meetings, to come up with, in the Blandin style meeting facilitation. Then we come up with our projects after that.
Okay. So it's a flat 75,000 per community?
Well,
So
Per-
once you,
Or people?
if you're accepted as one of the 4 Blandin broadband communities, that doesn't come with any funding, but it does come with organizational support and stakeholder meetings. And they send Bill Coleman up as a consultant to help us organize and figure out what our priorities are.
Okay.
We already need to have some idea for the application, but it helps us narrow it down like voyage forward to what are we going to do specifically.
Okay.
And then in the late summer or early fall, you apply for the various sources of funding, which we can go into later.
And that's from the state of Minnesota, right?
No, that's from Blandin.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can also apply for other sources of
They get it
funding
from the
as
state.
well. Well, they get it mostly from the Blandin.
No, it's
Foundation.
Their own foundation.
It is their own money?
yeah, when Blandin sold the mill, all that money that they.
I know why Blandin exists, but I also know that they get state and federal money to disperse on
It's,
projects.
it's possible they have additional sources of funding.
The last time they had state money, they were dispersing.
So,
Huh?
It can be done.
for letter, they're primarily talking about letters of support, but there's also letters of participation. If there's an organization that knows that they plan to participate actively as an organization, that their letter can specify that. And
The
that's-
letter of support could be a letter of
It
participation.
could be both, yeah. But all we're asking for at a minimum is just say, hey, we endorse this project, we think this is good for the community. If the organization also wants to say, yes, we support this organization, it's good for our community, and we are gonna participate, and here's how, ideally, that's all better, right?
When you mention letters of support, you mean from the cities? You mean like, well, International Falls, of course, but Little Fort, Big Falls, Rainier.
Yeah,
I think Northwell already has broadband, if I
Big
recall.
Falls does too.
Big
Yeah,
Falls.
fiber.
But again, remember, this is about how to better utilize what's there. So all
Right.
the communities have an opportunity to have a project that will better utilize the existing broadband. So I think every community is going to want to be on board supporting this and let, the different initiatives over the 2-year period come up.
Yeah, I think like Ely, for example, they did a tourism site for one of their initiatives. And so that has nothing to do with broadband or infrastructure. It has to do with using technology to promote the area. So there's, was it 7 different areas? And only one of them include actual broadband 6.
Infrastructure.
So that they can, there's other areas, I don't have to list in front of
So
me, that the projects can involve.
sustainability, you have the underserved population, use of the services as well. And a great example that we're gonna list in the application is No Place Like Home Again. There you go.
Yeah.
No Place Like Home Again, last year, asked us to help out, and they got a grant from, KDA. KCDA, to go from pen and paper bookkeeping and inventory management to a full point of sale system, internet access and the whole thing. But there are also plenty of businesses and organizations in town that have internet access that keep it pretty good if they're on Midco, but don't really know how to fully take advantage of that, online marketing, et cetera. I suppose we could point to Spanky Sweet Pea as an example of a business that really has done that right. And they're making a whole ton of money. If they didn't have the internet and a good presence on there, they would be, 1% as big as they are now.
Right.
They wouldn't exist probably.
Well, retail is there
Yeah.
now.
So, that would be another example of how we break it down.
Haven't we had plenty of classes out of college on marketing and customer service?
Oh, sure, but as companies have evolved and as the retail landscape has changed dramatically, and again, given our distance, I think having a online presence for selling the product, I think it was scary for a lot of folks, but now I think more and more people are trending that way. So I think it was more of a timing thing, but yeah, there have been plenty of opportunities around marketing, using social media.
Right.
We just have to, raise the bar.
And the technology and the strategies are changing as well. Even if you knew how to do it really well 5 years ago, well, particularly for those that are on the cutting edge of online marketing, you have to stay on top of it.
And I don't want to go into the weeds on this, but I think one of the areas that we need to look at for retail is they have these smaller it's like a mini Amazon. Etsy would be an example. I don't know how many businesses in town might use that kind of umbrella, but
Well, you guys were saying, you guys use Amazon a lot.
do you use Amazon?
Yeah.
Use some.
Yeah, I mean, everybody uses it to some degree, but there's, like you say, it's changing constantly, and to stay on top of it is, a lot of businesses just don't have the time and the resources to really extend what they have or to maximize what they have. So I think there's the real upside for a lot of potential users.
The organizations top to mind, you can spit them out now, or you can email them to me as you go, and kind of be thinking about that over the coming week, and reaching out to them and feeding back to us. And Bill Coleman, a lot of people have asked, what needs to be in the letter of support. Bill Coleman said, letterhead, signature. There's some text in the middle, but that's really what they're.
When do these need to be in?
Well, the application is due at the end of the month, the 31st of
So
May.
you'd like them a week before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sooner the better.
In case people ask for a sample, do you have a sample?
Don't have any samples yet. That was one of the things I said I would do that I haven't gotten around to yet, but,
Is there a
As we get
website
to-
for this where we?
there is not yet.
Okay.
So since,
Well, there's a website for the Blandin Broadband.
Yeah.
oh, yes, yeah.
They don't put examples of.
No, I didn't see any examples of
I watched
applications.
one of their hour-long things, and they might have touched, one of their webinars, and they might have touched about it a little bit, but kind of just blew over it pretty much. So what we know about projects, Bill Coleman kind of told us, when,
Should probably go visit this website though.
yeah, the website's pretty good, it has a
Yeah.
lot of information.
There's a lot there.
And they have a webinar too that you can watch, it's only an hour long.
So in our request for these letters of support, and that request, we should tell them about this website so they can go and take a look.
Not
Is
that
that-
website, it's, has a website, it's Blandin Broadband. I can fill you in on all the information
Okay, sorry.
later, it's in the emails.
But that would be useful.
Yeah. But yeah, by the end of this week, I'll have at least one sample of the letter of support out. I was asked to write the one for the Rain Lake Property Owners Association anyway, so that's on me, I can use that as an example. But basically, it just says, internet access and use is very important for our communities. We're underserved, we support this project. If it just touches on those points, that's plenty.
Are we underserved?
Yes. We are. So another thing we decided is that, consistent with the choice that we would vote forward, we are going to try for a county-wide approach. And Bill encouraged us, to go large at the start. We can always adjust. If we have to make the community definition of the community smaller, it can change over time. But the basic strategy we're looking at for reaching out to the outlying areas of the community is to have publicly available Wi-Fi hotspots that people can, drive to in their car if they need to, sit there, do their job application or whatever, and then, drive home, whether or not they can go inside. Where that came from is people were talking about, people parking out front, up at the library, Chamber of Commerce, various places. Well, they just sit there in their cars and do this already. So basically, what we're looking at is a possible grant funding application is making sure that all of the relatively dense population centers we have around the county have at least one Wi-Fi hotspot where people can do that.
And also, my wife cleans here at night, and when she's here in the wintertime, too, there's people sitting out on the steps when it's 30 below, using their cell phone or their computer. So that I was thinking about when we have a library board meeting today, we could talk about that and have that to the letter. Because it happens less in the wintertime. It's every night in the summertime people are sitting out here. But in the wintertime, it's still once a week people are sitting out in the cold. So whatever they're doing is important enough to them that they'll freeze to death.
Yep.
Yeah, it causes economic, lack of internet access is really a divider. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what Alyssa was saying at the last meeting with people who are trying to apply for jobs and they can't because they don't have, access. Missed opportunities.
And United Health Group, I just sent Lisa their email this morning for more details. They have a lot of their employees work at home. And they won't let them do that unless they have a good enough internet connection. And if you're living in a spot that doesn't have an internet connection, you're not available to be one of their workers. So,
Right, especially us in town, and this is, I don't understand all the technology and the connectivity, but in cell phone is tied to broadband, right?
Yeah, they're kind of included together now, but the cell phone speeds are a lot faster.
Especially when people use cell phones now, they're more like, yeah.
They're on Wi-Fi most of the time.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying there are areas that we can include, the resort areas especially, where cell phones.
What's the, you got cable towers, cell towers. And then you got internet cable. And then you have Wi-Fi, which is.
Well, Wi-Fi just has to do with it. It has to be on one of those connections.
Right.
So you have to have something.
Yeah.
we can, the letters of support and stuff, we can continue that by email and brainstorming and the whole thing. So the other two major areas I wanted to flesh out for the application are, one is opportunities and challenges and priorities, the kind of stuff that might turn into a grant application for funding for a specific project. And the other thing is accomplishments that we can already point to that demonstrate to Blandin that, hey, if you do support us, we're going to get stuff done. We already recognize this as a priority and we're going to move forward.
Well, KCCTV has a history with Blandin, and they gave us money and we're still operating, so we would cite that as an example of follow through.
And what part of that relates to
Well,
the internet?
if the internet, we use the internet. But
and you put yourselves up on YouTube,
Oh, yeah.
which allows
Right.
people accessing.
But what I'm saying is we have a history, this city has a history.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we
So what
want,
we're doing.
with grant execution and delivery.
So what we're doing right now is documenting that history. I'll read through, I've got about 15, 20 points of past accomplishments in our community, past accomplishments or current projects. So one is the Voyage Forward project. Obviously, that's going to be really highlighted in this, and that touches on the whole broad area. Local government recognition and broadband access as a critical priority. All the cities in the county have talked about that and have been aware of it for quite a while. So you don't have to talk the local government bodies into this being a priority. So we can tell Blandin, that's not a barrier that we're going to face.
Yeah, Little Fork received the board-to-board, one of those board-to-board grants last year.
What was that, Grant?
Little Fork, the city of Little Fork.
Right.
Was successful.
What was it?
Was that
It's a state
That's what
grant.
State grant, but I mean, the fact that they were successful in applying.
Board to, what was it?
Order to border,
Border to border.
which is all about internet access, right?
Infrastructure, yeah.
Infrastructure.
And Midco has provided it, partnered with them.
And I think that was a case, that was the kind of funding I was talking about that we can't get because we already have Midco. If we didn't have Midco or something comparable, then we could get that kind of funding to bring in Midco or Blandin or whatever.
We just don't have the customer base to have a competition, I know.
Right, yeah. I already mentioned Woodland Park Apartments is a great example. Our shop, I mean, we started our shop because we love doing this kind of stuff, but because we recognize this community has this real need. And, you know, it's for profit, it's not non-profit, but the community really benefits, I think, from having somebody like us. That's also back.
We're happy you're there. Speaking as a city councilor, we're delighted.
And, you know, a huge part of our business is being an intermediary between local businesses and their support that used to be based somewhere in Minnesota. People could actually come in person, and now it's based in Texas or overseas, and they need a local person to be the intermediary to actually plug the things in and enter whatever settings they're told to enter. Border Protection and the Canadian government just released an app allowing people to use their smartphones to do remote border crossings, which the county and I think both cities of International Falls and Rainier, through Voyage Forward, the cross-border initiative that I'm a co-chair of, we got letters of support from those three governments, and that didn't end up happening. So now that is active, at least as a pilot program in our area. In addition, they're installing iPad kiosks instead of the ORS stations that we have. Just one up here. That's using the internet to increase make it easier and safer to cross the border and increase compliance. Tech access in schools, there's various, we want to get specific, but there's various ways that technology through laptops, et cetera, has been made available to our students. Northwood Shutterbugs, they meet here and they help each other with photography tech, among other things. Little community group, they do their own thing. Yeah. Their Northwood Shutterbugs is very successful. I mean, it's one small little thing, but plenty of clubs like that can really help with that educational part of it.
In terms of customers or customer needs, at the test building with the Jaguar Land Rover, bringing fiber to the building so that they can, because of the data requirements that they have, they successfully were able to connect with fiber, and all the providers said nobody's going to use that much data, and they use that much data.
Okay.
So,
And was Jaguar, you said it was most consistent on that?
and they're sending data all over the world from international calls.
And is it right that Jaguar wasn't going to do that testing here unless they got that fiber?
They would not be here if they didn't have minimum, or not minimum, if they didn't have capability to do that.
All right, I've added that to the list. For these things, by the way, interrupt me. If you think of something as I'm talking, interrupt me, I'll add it to the list right away. That's cool, otherwise I might forget by the time I get to the end of the list. And for any of these that you know a little bit more about, like Paul, I'm going to pick on you. If you can write 1 or 2 sentences about that, because this does count towards our 8-page limit, about what, about Jaguar and their fiber connection. We'll put that in the list.
So you want us, and I've got things I can add, but basically this is part of the app, and you're just gonna throw out a bunch of ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's sort of a brainstorming paragraph of the app.
It demonstrates to Blandin that we are already taking action on broadband usage and access, and demonstrating that we've got some momentum. So if they help us out, that momentum's going to go forward, as opposed to we have no interest whatsoever. They're going to be pushing a rock if they accept us. I think that would help.
So you want what we've done and also
Current
ideas.
projects. Well, so this list is current projects and past accomplishments.
Okay.
There's another list they want of basically opportunities and barriers, issues that we hope to address if we are accepted as a land community.
So should we add on that, Cindy, does KCCT would like to have some fund to increase our broadband in
Yes.
order to upload information.
Yeah.
Meetings go a lot faster.
Mhm. Yeah, if you want to write a sentence or two on that and send it off to me.
I would think Granite Digital too, because now, Granite Digital, the data center that they're in.
Oh, right, I forgot that name, Blandin Digital, but, can you either yourself or have somebody write up a couple sentences on it?
Yeah,
What do they call that data center project?
Granite Digital,
Oh, that's the name of the business, but do they have a name for that project?
it's the data center. I forgot his name
Okay,
is.
sure,
It's the name of the company.
yeah.
And if you can add to what, as backups, right now we have just public use Wi-Fi is so slow. So we'd like to increase that, so, we gotta.
So if we brought it into the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's such a good project to kind of, since it's the community center.
Yeah, that is, we don't always have a problem, we've been going, really try to get Wi-Fi internet, but when we have the group of people in there, when we have more people in there, just slow down, everybody needs to.
The internal
Increase the
hardware.
broadband at the same time.
The internal hardware needs to be improved, and it needs a high-speed connection, and that's part of what I was talking with Paul Blandin about yesterday. Turns out there's on the block that contains Bacchus, on the northeast corner, there's an access point that they can run a fiber right to the building. And they're gonna look at, I think Ward is gonna provide me with a list of all the tenants, and Paul Blandin is gonna look at whether they can justify lumping it into a single payment, so that that $300 to $400 a month can be shared among all those. Normally, if they were all independent, separate businesses, like in a strip mall or whatever, they would each have to pay that fee and have their own connection as well. But things that you can justify making it, they'll have their own individual accounts, but they'll split that fee among them, which makes it then pretty viable, even without funding sources.
Paul Bunyan is a co-op, and there are a lot more reasons.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, do you want to know if, for instance, the college needs more Wi-Fi or more speed out there? More.
They, out there, they do have the broadband going to it, and they're, the fiber. And, we know a lot about it, because their daytime, admin, or tech guy, it works for us part-time. So, they're actually, their Wi-Fi is throughout the whole college, and the only place they have problems with is at the dorms. But that's more of a reliability thing. So they might be interested in, having a better system at the dorms, but I think the college is well taken care of.
What about the high school auditorium or the arena?
Yeah, that's, actually, they are going to put bids out for running fiber, which, our store is bidding, because we're gonna, start doing fiber, connections now, because we hired somebody with that experience. And so we actually have a quote into them, or is it completed yet? Well, either way, it's going to be done soon, and we're gonna do it this summer to go from, take the fiber from the high school and put it to the auditorium. So that's going to be happening by next year, by next school year.
Their infrastructure is pretty good, and they have a good tech person there, and they're hiring an additional tech person for the high school. And
What about that Kerry Park? Now that we have in the winter months, all of some out of town coming with hockey, tournaments, games, and,
don't know the status of that.
I don't know if Ken knows any more about that, but we can get that done.
Well, and I think I shared that with you, that Bronco hockey is sort of like a sought-after TV program. And,
It's where you get most of your viewership.
no, we're not taping that yet, because
Okay.
it takes a lot of expertise to do that, and you need wiring in the
Okay.
arena.
Right.
But there's a revenue source there.
Okay. Community ed, we have a history of having some tech community ed through the school's community ed program and other sources. I don't have much detail on that. You might be the big person to get that fleshed out.
I've taught a few classes for them, and they ask one of the tech people from town every year. I think this time Keith Bolt from hospitals teaching classes for them. But they're honestly, people come to our store all the time and say, "Oh, you should teach a class on that." And then we do it, and nobody ever shows up.
Yeah.
You know, even like we were talking earlier about the businesses, that there's classes and stuff. I don't know how many came to your class. I heard you had a good turnout. But we taught a class out at the college on Google My Business and stuff like that, and we had 5 people show up. They benefited from it greatly, but some of that is getting people to the meetings for that kind of stuff.
Do business people in town really understand where they need to be
Some
with this?
It depends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some do. Yeah,
Like-
you guys are working with them and kind of hopefully moving the
Part of
needle.
it's education.
We do a lot of
not
that
just
kind of stuff.
awareness.
Well, it's like a lot of times people are busy and technology scares them and
Right.
they thought that it's gonna cost me a ton of money when again, some of the technology is.
Yeah.
And sometimes people overdo it and have a lot more than they need.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were at Falls Lumber doing some work for them, and afterwards he's like, "Gosh, I should just go back to pen and paper, save a lot of money." And you probably might not be wrong, you know, to keep track of stuff.
The last guy we hired, Eric Coolidge, he's got decades of experience doing fiber optics and security systems for in the Pentagon and on battleships and stuff like that. Really high-end stuff. He works with a paper, with a notebook and a pencil, but he's planning all this stuff out. And when it needs to turn into a schematic, he hands it to the tech guys and they make a schematic out of it. So meeting people where they're at, we like doing that, and figuring out what's the technology that's actually going to help them not overkill and that they'll actually be able to use. No Place Like Home again, they just knew that they needed to go electronic, and that's about how much they knew about it.
Well, even after,
So we helped them walk through that.
after we're done with this morning, I'm going over to Blandin, we set them up so that they could have online classes now, so they could get their clientele base from all over.
Right.
And the system we set them up with was kind of a loan, and they just got a grant from KCBA again. And they're now gonna have like a really good system so that they can expand their clientele fast, just who can walk in the, who they can fit into the gym. And they're charging $10 a month or $15 a month or something like that to do online classes, and that's already running. So that's just gonna get better too.
So how does that work? They have a camera in the studio?
Yeah, we actually have one set up with a multi-camera system, one's hanging from the ceiling, and it all goes back to the computer. They're not live streaming.
Oh, they're not
They're recording and putting them online. They can't live stream because they signed like a 3-year contract or something with Frontier, and you can't live stream with Frontier because it's so slow.
See, well, we'd like to copy that at KCCTV. We provide full coverage of most of the meetings in town, right? It goes to cable, and then it was recorded and then is put on the YouTube website. But if we could be recording those meetings at the these are city buildings.
Sports,
City and
every,
county buildings.
anything that's happening in there.
If every public building was wired so that you could have a camera system there and then it would live stream.
Yeah, and the setup's
To
not
the
that-
internet.
It's not that expensive. We did set up, this doesn't really do much for economic development or anything, but we set up First Lutheran, they had bought like a $4,000 system, the one that they're gonna involve using as much, but they needed to Zoom a lot and stuff like that. So if they were a business that was in the, making money, then they would, their products were Zoom and stuff like that, that would have been live streamed. It is live streamed currently if you go to their website. So that's another, it was a really nice camera that they had that could zoom. It's that A-frame church, so the length of it's super long. So they needed a special camera for it, and they're all set up now too.
You know what I'm getting at is that in the interest of building community engagement and a strong sense of community identity, and because we lack really good news coverage, we got a semi-weekly newspaper, that's it. And we basically don't have much for coverage out in the county. If every public building, and that would be school, city, county, had a system where you could live stream, because people, who watch, I hate it, we're cable, right? And we provide cable. But that's a dying medium for getting information. More and more people go to stream. They go to a podcast, they go to
Right.
So if we want to provide information and really inform people about what's happening or not happening
Yeah.
in government,
That's definitely something
you know.
to explore.
do you want me to make that argument? Because I'll add it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just heard the Wikimedia, whatever they call themselves, the Wikipedia, they are just starting a wiki journal, which is supposed to be use the wiki Wikipedia design to do news sourcing on a national level. And in the future, they want to branch out into local news, where they help local communities do that, where it's not everyone just posting whatever they think and feel, but there's a curated process to help push it up, be of good quality. That could be a useful model going forward. But yeah, we have KCCTV, we have the journal with an online presence, and we have, that's pretty much it. People posting on Facebook, which then mediated into social media stuff. But that's certainly something that can be.
Well,
explored.
KCCTV curates, because we have to conform
Right.
with FCC regs.
Right.
We can't take
KCTV
foreign
and the journal curate,
data.
these are the only curated sources
Yeah.
online. I don't think the radio does any significant online presence, although I could be wrong. Probably have a stream, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think they do their sports, make it online for sure. I don't know what else, because they don't stream music, just because of how expensive it is to stream music.
At the Les Radio Icebox event, we had a community discussion on how radio and that kind of media can adapt to the modern age. And one of the head people at the radio station in Fort Francis was over here talking about how they get a lot of people looking for their news that are spread all over Canada and the US, looking for that. And I was encouraging them, hey, you already got all that audio all done. Convert it to a podcast as well. Let's put it down in podcast format for those like me that pretty much just do podcasts.
That's where I got my through your podcast, right?
Right. Yeah, it's already read. It's
And
already
you don't
read.
need video when you're getting your news that way.
Not generally. So back to this list of
Can I comment
accomplishments,
on that?
absolutely.
So a group that I'm a part of, last night, we started we'll have it up and running by this weekend, we'll launch it, is we'll have a community calendar that pulls everybody's calendar.
It's already
Oh,
read. Yep.
so it automatically pulls like the access calendar, the library, the cities.
Really?
Yeah, I set it up last night. I'm not gonna tell you the website because it looks terrible right now. By this weekend, it'll look really
Is
nice.
this a free service? No.
Yep, it's completely free.
And it pulls from other calendars that already exist, right?
Yeah,
Backus calendar, and city
so
calendar.
far I've had the county too, it pulls from it. The only one I haven't been able to pull from is the chamber, but not the visitors bureau. And then, we'll be able to pull from the chamber by the time we're done, so.
And one of the parts of that logic is the organizations that have those calendars or scheduled events, like Backus, if they're looking at scheduling, okay, we have this event, we need to schedule it. Obviously, they have access to their own calendar, but through this resource, they can look at, oh, okay, well, gee, there's 3 other major community events that week, and that might not be the best time to schedule this, because we're competing for the same limited audience.
That's good.
And it doesn't require any extra work on the part of the people maintaining their local calendars, right?
Yep, yeah, there'll be no, there can be if they want to, like,
Right.
add pictures to it and stuff, but they really don't have to. And it has a Google map of where the, if it's included in their calendar, the address will bring up a Google map of where it's at.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and give you directions.
When will this website be available?
It'll be available this weekend. It's through the iPulse Nice Group, and,
The iPulse Nice Group.
you know,
Okay,
and so, and also that group's semi-anonymous.
Semi.
It's like, what's that group of people with masks on?
That's anonymous.
Anonymous.
There you go. You're semi-anonymous, so you're like,
So that's gonna be one.
Absolutely not.
That
It's
group
sort of like, you know, you're either,
you should get masks. We'll wear them around town.
That's a terrific idea, though. I think it's a
Yeah.
terrific
It is a terrific idea, and that's really, Blandin and this BBC program, they love ideas like that.
Yeah.
Beyond this, I mean, it's not about access to the internet, it's about using it and
Well, and that was
leveraging it for the
this
community.
past weekend, the sturgeon fishing was, all the kids could join for free, but there was Darcy's
Yeah,
dance
so
recital,
that's
and
right.
there was like
Right.
a whole bunch of
And
things
some things
going
you
on,
can't.
and yeah, I don't know, but,
you'll never find an empty weekend.
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
Well, it goes to that, there's nothing to do.
But I was just gonna say.
That's why,
that's
yeah.
oh, yeah.
I'm so sick of
Oh my gosh.
Even I only have on there right now, like, the ones that have the most events, so Backus Community Ed is on there, and the Visitors Bureau, and I think the library might be on there. And there's still 5 events in each day, and that's not even all the calendars, so there's plenty to do.
mhm. I had a friend who moved after living here for 3 years, in no small part because he thought there was nothing to do. One of the things I tried to do was get your border document so you can cross the border. There's a whole other
What
community
is it that
right over
people,
there, and he never got it done, so.
what they say they can't do anything? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
partly attitudinal, but.
I mean, are people
But-
afraid? I think they're afraid to interact.
But
That's
things like this
Part of it is
community calendar
informational
can be
too,
great.
like they just don't know
Right.
that stuff is going on.
Right. You know, things seem dead, but if there's an easy way to find out what's
If
going
you
on.
interact with people, you find
Yeah.
these things out.
And Bill Coleman was saying for this kind of calendar, it's really good to have basically one version for people who live here and another version for people who are coming as tourists. Right? They probably don't want to see the local hockey game, but they want to know about events that might be of more general interest. Anyway, let's see. Fiber to the hockey arena, community ed courses, we mentioned that. I think Cushing Aging Options does some work with at leveraging tech assets to help the elderly.
Yeah,
like
I'm
Bill
on that
Coleman
board.
certainly mentioned.
I'm on
If you want to get something written up about what they've done,
We have,
again, really short bullet point type stuff.
we used to be involved with first alert systems, but I think that's totally farmed out.
Yeah, I don't think we do anything more with that.
Yeah. Leverage tech assets, really?
Yeah, like using apps to, do your own care. Bill Coleman at our first meeting mentioned, some people, that $300 to $400 a month to have a fiber access is a lot of money. But if you're living, out in the country where you have, definitely no Midco, maybe no Frontier,
So you get a.
poor cell phone access, if you pay $300 to $400 to get tied into the fiber network, if you're close enough to the fiber line, that may keep you out of the nursing home, which is going to cost way more than $300 to $400 a month, and you can end up, it can actually make a lot of economic sense.
Well, Medicare pays for that.
I don't know, but whoever's paying for it potentially could make all the difference. But there are plenty of other things. There are apps that help people with reading. You can use your smartphone, double click it, get a zoom in on the document you're trying to read. Okay. There's tons and tons of tech apps. I was just telling Doug Screef about how password management software was a great educational thing to talk about because everyone deals with it. Few people deal with it well. Most of the well-known ones like LastPass that we use have a feature where you can basically have a living will type thing where if you don't log into your LastPass account for however much time you designate, it could be a month for example, if you don't log in for a month, then somebody that you've designated gets full access to your account. If you're in a coma, if you're dead, whatever. So instead of having to contact each bank and bill source that you have to deal with, that to get permission to access the account, you can just get all those access credentials right away. That's great. People that everyone can take advantage of that because we could all die anytime or get incapacitated. But obviously, for the elderly, it's a little more imminent or more on their minds.
Biometrics is coming though.
Yeah.
God, I have a
So
password
that's another thing
listed.
too. Yeah. So if you want to write up a few sentences on what Jess has done on that.
Every time I turn around, that's a password.
The senior center is also, they were looking at possibly getting a computer to have there so that people could go online and do different things and try to teach them, education about, so some of the same things, but I know that they were.
Something they don't have but are thinking of having.
Right, yes.
Right. And remind me, the senior center is what? Where?
Right by Freedom.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah.
So they do all the meals.
And they don't have that computer
They
access
do,
yet?
no.
Okay.
Don't they go there to socialize?
So.
Yes, but they're thinking of expanding they'd like to expand the programs that they do there and the times that they're open for seniors. So,
Some of that's a duplication, for instance. They have computer classes at the college, why don't you offer them at the senior center? They even give you a.
Well, people know.
Yeah, a huge part of providing classes is not just the class, but providing where in an environment that people are comfortable going to. It's part of why turnout isn't always that good for the community ed classes, is because people it doesn't fit into what they're used to. But if they're going to that center already, meet them where they are.
You are right about the socializing thing. I was volunteering there last week or the week before and serving lunch, and it was really cool. There was not a single cell phone out except the one guest that was under. He was probably 40-ish. He was the only guy sitting on a cell phone, and everybody else was talking. So it was cool to see that because that was a group of 30, 40 somethings, 50 somethings. That wouldn't have been like that. So you're right to do whether your name is socialized.
Kusaska Precasca has provided PCs for people for a few years now and subsidized internet access. If we are accepted as a BBC community, we automatically get 50 PCs for people to sell or give away or however that works. So that's a nice thing to have on our application as well.
And they've kind of reignited their interest in this area too, as far as PCs for people. I've been seeing a lot more distribution and online presence for them. Every time they post something, I share it on our Facebook page. Because I don't want people to have the impression of, oh, they're getting this computer from them, don't come to us for help, and we'll be happy to help anybody.
Right.
And it's a great program. That could be somebody's Christmas present for a low-income family. They get a computer that costs them $75 that would normally be $500-600.
Do you recycle cell phones over there?
Well,
I don't see why we can't.
yeah, we do. We do. We need to. We're working on at our store just a program for recycling. Right now, we can't take everything, except the whole computer monitors, the big ones. Other than that, we've been taking everything, but we're eventually we'll come up with a program and stop that.
Because people need cell phones too.
Absolutely.
And they actually have something like that with the PCs for people. I don't remember, Bill Coleman told us something about it. I don't remember much about it, but it had to do with like getting people track phones and cards or something like that. So they had some kind of option. Again, I don't remember the detail around it too much. So.
I grew up back in the day when cell phones didn't exist.
Me too. Well,
And
you can have your
But I've only been off in 2005.
what?
We barely had telephones.
Yeah, we had rotary phones.
We did have rotary.
Yeah, I had a rotary phone as a cat.
You're that old.
First one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm that old.
Yeah, the rotary
Parts
phone.
of me are much older.
I think the first cell phone call was made in the late 80s.
It's weird, because now you can't live without them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you can't. I just got one.
I did everything.
I lived here a decade.
What else we got?
I'm pretty much close to done with that list of things we've already accomplished.
We got quite a bit though, we can add to that.
This is all to flesh out, yeah. The opportunities and needs, I'll read through it real quick, it only has 9 things on it. We're going to flesh that out, some of which we've already mentioned. Basic broadband access for residents and visitors.
And that's an outcome.
Yeah. Remote monitoring of buildings, businesses, nonprofits, cabins, seasonal homes, including people with lake homes and stuff that they need to keep track of. Business internet access for hotel reservations and guest Wi-Fi. We're helping Pelican Lake Resort residents down there. They're really struggling. They're in a tough situation right now. They're kind of out of our community area, but the basic concept applies. We're helping a lot of releases in Cabatoga with that as well. Cary Park Marine internet access, just added to the list. Pretty much the border protection, border crossing app. Mentioned low turnout on community ed classes. How do we, when we're going to do that, how do we make it more worth the time to people doing it? We're willing to do much more, but not if only 1 or 2 people are going to show up or nobody.
And maybe we could work together in some classes, because
Sure.
I had a good turnout for the social media class, and actually I could have used more people helping because I
Okay.
had so many people.
Because you
Sounds
need
good.
hands-on, they need hands-on.
Yeah.
I could help with that, so.
Did you know that a lot of people were going to show up beforehand?
No,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
sometimes the problem.
it was kind of, I knew I had a decent turnout, but then when everybody actually showed up, it was like, this is great,
I don't know if you guys know about Chris Hempstead's science club for kids that he started doing at the high school for elementary school students. He got a grant budgeted, we planned for 30 kids, they got 90 kids.
Wow.
Now, we could do something like that with tech for kids, and if we do it right, maybe follow whatever model he has, we make it a similar turnout. And that could be really huge, so.
90 kids?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just the
They have
school
to
district?
split it in
yeah.
3 departments.
Yeah.
Are they looking at a robotics team here locally?
There is
They
a
have
robotics
a
team,
team.
so that's a good thing to mention.
Oh, they do, because I was aware.
At the high school.
3 years now it's been going on, and PCA backs a lot of it, including their coaches. They're a big part of it. But they just, they finished, I don't remember what they ended up finishing, but it was out of like 100 teams, and they finished in the top quarter though. And it's a national competition. and they were in Duluth, and the kids that are on it are just so brilliant. They came and presented to Rotary, and we were all blown away. I knew that there was a robotics team, but I thought they were just tinkering around.
Right, I didn't even know that there was.
Yeah.
I'll send you a video of the competition, because on what they have to do, it's incredible. It's like they're playing a giant video game with this robot that they made. It's really cool.
And 4-H has had a robotics program for a while. Sorry.
They've had some good teams here locally, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't get much play in the media. Well, of course, I'm a tennis fan.
No, they really don't.
But those on KCC TV.
I was
I was
writing it
gonna-
down.
I was going to ask you if we could add that to the podcast, that robotics.
No, but you'll have to ask me.
Who do I have to ask?
Those teams have been improving in the last 3 years. We've got a robot team.
Wow.
Pretty good.
I was just at the school yesterday, so.
Okay, because that would be fun to have.
But I like the idea of a technology team or camp or much like.
Last summer, we taught a technology club here at the library, and some days we'd have 20 kids, and some days we'd have 0. It was really random, and it didn't really matter what we were doing. So we did have it here, it's just this year we didn't have enough time to help with it, because we were too busy. But it was, so I mean, there's an interest in it, definitely. And a lot of people, they have their grandkids visiting from out of town, so it brought kids to the library that normally wouldn't have from the library, so there was quite a few families that were out of towners with their grandparents.
I hadn't even thought of that. There's people who come up for the summer only, bring baby kids who've never even been to this community to participate in the theater thing.
College for kids.
Career Fire Theater.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and college for
And
kids and
this
all
year
that.
they're doing 2 weeks of classes, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
2 separate programs with it.
I think that's probably good enough for today's meeting, but I just finally realized on the agenda for today's meeting, I have the list of the 6 areas that are included in Blandin broadband. Intelligent community indicators, it's broadband infrastructure, which is the most obvious one. Knowledgeable workforce, basic tech skills, the city, the college, the high school.
I talked to Paul about that right now, this city or this school is hiring somebody, and Midco is hiring people for tech jobs.
Yeah.
And they're all coming from our store because there's nobody else out there, because everybody that's already in this tech field already is gainfully employed, pretty much, so. And we encourage all of our people to apply for it. Because there is
Who will be
no-
at the store then?
We'll still be there.
We'll figure it out. We have a lot of
Yeah,
trained
you'll
people up here.
We're not just juggles up your
And,
shifts.
we don't mind training employees for the community at large, but of course, we also want to be competitive enough in the future. We're still in the startup phase, but where our benefits package, et cetera, is actually competitive with working for the college or the city or whatever, so. We'll get there. So knowledgeable workforce, innovation and competitiveness, so that's things like Swanky Sweet Pea and just making the community more attractive to people who want to come here and also do tech stuff at the same time.
United Health, I would definitely, right? I mean,
Yeah, let's see what Lisa says in response to my email. Digital inclusion, that's basically low income and under accessed parts of the community, including the elderly. Community marketing, like the calendar we were just talking about and other such things. And the hardest one to really define is sustainability, and Bill couldn't really define it terribly well either, but I think what they're getting after is a sense that the stuff that Blandin is helping us do will last. It's not just going to be a flash in the pan. We have a year of courses and then there's no follow through and it doesn't continue in any way. The more interesting stuff is going
And
to
add that to the
That's
cost
awesome.
and the little folk they have already find out like how it is when we how we can help them to stand there. What they are having right now.
Mhm.
That can be part of it.
So in all these lists of things, whether it's stakeholders, opportunities and needs, past accomplishments, we want to be linking to those 6 different areas as much as possible.
For sustainability, you're talking revenue, future revenue streams, really. That's what you're
Yep.
looking at. County needs to think about a franchise tax that can be used as a funding source for some of this technology. The city has one, we're putting it into the general fund.
But it isn't just revenue, it's also community enthusiasm and participation, where there's a sustained interest in it as well.
Well, feature you know, where does the sustainability come? It comes from interest, but people are willing to pay, or you have
You
no.
need both.
Yeah.
Well, we can codify it, if you will, too, in the comprehensive plan. So if there's projects that come out of this, and we can put it in our goals and implementation strategies for the comp plan, it becomes more internalized, so.
Certainly, one thing that would be really powerful, I think, in the letters of support from the government agencies is them indicating anything they are willing to say about their long-term commitment to funding, you know, various aspects of tech.
You find
Knowing
that,
budgets are tight, but, you know.
well, many cities fund their public access, but this goes beyond that. Hundreds of thousands a year, you know. So the range has a consortium of cities that they have a well-developed system.
We are about.
Sustainability is a really tricky one too, but I think you look at that in a much broader sense of sustaining the county long-term. If you're not competitive, if you don't have access to broadband, you lose the ability to even keep your population base, recruit new people, keep young people here.
Yeah.
But that is a tricky one.
So that's kind of the flip side. I was thinking of sustainability primarily in terms of how are our broadband efforts going to be sustained? But there's a flip side. How do our broadband efforts help sustain the community? In United Health Group, for example, they're the second largest employer in the county.
What is?
United Health Group.
Yeah.
United Health Group, for United Health Group nationally or globally, this is really small potatoes, and it's a small enough operation that I'm sure every year the national headquarters looks at, we still want to keep that going or not? And so, you know, having that infrastructure, having their employees able to work from home, et cetera, helps keep that local operation going.
Do they have it?
I don't know.
And I think it's okay for me to say this, we just did our first work there, tech work for United Health Group.
Back to sustainability, because some people that were just moving to town in November have an office at home and headquarters in San Francisco. That's something we can advertise and help people that want to come back to town, but then connect to their headquarters anywhere to work.
That's a growing piece of the employment sector.
So that can be a piece of helping for this application here too.
There's a doctor based in Bemidji who also has a house on Dove Island. He's a radiologist, and he's constantly looking at you know, X-rays and stuff at home, and he can barely do that on Dove Island. And we're working on making that work better for him. But there's only so much we can do at our shop. But you know, he will spend more time here if he can do what he needs to do from there. So.
Our niche, I mean, I always thought one of our slogans should be, we're always first in line. So we don't fight traffic, we don't fight, I mean, it's very convenient to get around because everything is so close and you don't have crowds of people. If you get the internet and then tell people this is where, you know, you can find peace of mind.
Yeah, no, I think that the trend is, well, there's already folks that are doing it here, but it could really, really grow if the network was stronger and more capacity. And market that more. I mean, it's part of the market. But
For digital inclusion, Kevin, I don't know if you know, I'm a little bit ignorant about social services and programs and stuff that the county has to interact with the community on, but do people have the means that participate in the various programs that the county provides? Do they have access to computers and broadband, or is that something that we can expand or touch on with digital inclusion in some way in this application?
You mean the people using services?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's a number of them that, you know, because of income and stuff, probably don't have it. You know, a number of them do, but, you know, I mean, we work with people from, you know, young adults to, you know, senior citizens, but, and some of them on both ends probably don't because of income. You know, the middle age is generally well off, you know, but, you know, they're the ones that probably have the technology and better access to it, and than either the young adults or the seniors, so.
Well, the seniors, the very elderly, they're not into it at all.
Yeah, it scares them.
Yeah, past them.
They don't understand it, so.
Well, they're using it more and more. We see, you're not shop every day, they're using our Free Five program to stay in contact with their grandkids and kids.
Yeah.
So we see, I mean, it's not so much as productivity, so to speak, but it's a lot of keeping up with their family.
Yep.
In fact, the people who are most addicted to technology that we've seen tears over when they had to wait an extra day are the more senior citizens. That are really passionate about, they go without their tablet, they can't talk to their grandkids for a week, and it happens at least once a week. We get somebody in there that we can't fix wherever they have right away, and they're distraught about it. So it's a huge growing population. That's very demographic, and it's generally because of connections and stuff like that you can provide with the internet now.
That's all I had for today. I think we hit all the main points. We can certainly talk longer if people want to, but I'll arrange for us to talk to the journal as soon as this meeting is over and give them about this and give them an update on this project and where it's heading. So that'll be our next stop.
I'm grateful that you two have stepped forward with this, brought this to the community.
Yeah, you have stuff going on.
I know Keita's got a full platter over there, but, you know, this sounds like we've got the right people leading it, and it's gonna have legs, and something's gonna come of it. I really feel that that's gonna happen, and thank you.
One quick question I have for applicants, it says it should be a 501c3. Is Voyage for?
They don't list on that application, they don't list the fiscal agent separately in that document.
Oh.
But Bill Coleman said it's totally fine with Keita being the fiscal agent.
You're not a
Voyage forward.
501c3, right?
No, it doesn't have to be 501c3, sorry, a government.
Governmental
can be-
entity.
Yeah, governmental can be it.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that we didn't
Yeah,
run afoul
yeah, he did.
of some technicality.
I think if for some reasons Keita doesn't work, which seems extremely unlikely, I think our natural fallback would be Bacchus, which is the fiscal agent for Voyage Forward. So we could just go with that, but I think having Keita on the resume
With a larger
really helps it
county,
as well, so.
So just to reiterate, as far as the steering committee goes, we're adding law and a representative from KCCTV/Kid Commission, we'll blend those two.
Okay.
And then you're looking for, from the participants at this table, and we'll have them here, you're looking for a list, some description of current projects, past accomplishments that you can add to the app.
Yeah, and this is going to be a bullet point list, so.
Right,
couple
so you don't want a
sentences.
lot of, and what you're gonna do is try to organize that, right?
Right,
And then,
we'll start that into the application.
I thought I had something else there too.
Jim, you can email recap of what we have.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'll be sending out drafts of the various parts of the application as we develop it.
Who do you want letters of support addressed to? Is it directly to Blandin, or is it?
I've kind of thought of it as to a concern, you have a declaration like a press release, we support
I think
this.
Are they,
That's not even necessarily,
What's more specific?
but if it is, sorry,
I think it's better
better
to be
more
more
specific,
specific.
then I would say Blandin Foundation.
what about board members of the Blandin Foundation, or
Oh, you just say
Blandin
Blandin
Foundation.
Yeah,
your Blandin Foundation board
Yeah.
members?
just Blandin Foundation, I wouldn't bother to specify board members.
For
Because it
example,
may not be going to the board.
Yeah, they're not.
yeah, because do they have this as a Broadband Community Foundation, do they have a separate ad?
It's a separate part, I don't know if it's completely separate.
It's
Maybe just
But
my
separate people.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, you can find out some real.
Good, I think we got a lot there going. Put in the nap.
It's exciting.
Jim and
It's
we'll email you, and then we can have.
Yeah. I thought it's nice.